Hello, folks. Welcome along once again to another edition of the Irish Rally Podcast in association with Tree Rock, the display signage branding company, I should say. Check them out on Instagram and on Facebook and on Twitter. TreeRock.ie are sponsors for the Tarmac Championship, and thanks to them for their continued support. We are, of course, looking back on the 2022 Dual Donegal International Rally. What a fantastic event. What drama. If we had time, we probably should have done one Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night. I didn't have the time. My apologies. Our social media posts were quite busy with results and different things like that. But the evenings were quite shocker, to say the least. And unfortunately, subsequently couldn't actually get up over the weekend to the event, which was quite disappointing. But hopefully next year we'll have a bit more time at our disposal and we'll be able to get up to the far end of the country. For anyone that was up there, I believe they were treated to an absolute classic. Having been, I suppose, following the coverage, it did seem that way. Plenty of drama. I think after day one, 5 seconds separated Matt Edwards and Callum Devine. Crazy stuff, really. So we have a lot to get through. And while we speak of Matt Edwards, we do want to wish himself and Dave Moynihan the very best in their recovery. I believe they're making good progress, and hopefully in the next couple of days they'll be out and about once more. But will take a bit of time to recover. So our very best wishes to the lads indeed. Stellar cast, as always. Coming up in a few minutes' time, we're going to be chatting to Ryan McHugh, who won the junior section. We'll be chatting to Tommy O'Connell straight after that, who won the historics. Gary Kiernan is going to drop by as well. We great crack with Gary before the Galway Rally, I think it was. So we said we'd bring him back for some more fun and games. We'll be chatting all things modified with him. Just to let you know as well, as you would have saw from our social media posts a little bit earlier, from the get-go this evening, we are focusing on our guests, but a little bit later on, we're looking for you to get your comments in about a couple of topics, which we will just raise, I suppose, there and then. If there's anything else you want us to have a chat about, I should say, in the meantime, you can comment underneath the post there on Facebook and on YouTube. I'll try check out the Twitter ones as well, but they don't really come through into the little bit of software that we're using. So we'll try keep an eye on everything as it progresses. I'm going to bring in my co-host, Mr. Anthony and Esther. How are you, sir?
Hi, Kevin. All back to normality. I'm afraid we've no sheep in the background tonight.
Yeah, we've less ambience, I suppose. It was quite interesting last week at the outside broadcast that nobody planned for. But yeah, it was quite cool.
The thing is with the headsets, everybody could hear the sheep, but I couldn't hear them at all, even though they were just behind me.
Yeah, how would your weekend go? Before we delve into everything else later on, just a brief synopsis of how your weekend went.
And we will chat in more detail Donegal, later. Like, I suppose, to be fair, Donegal International, it's the biggest event of the year. It's the only 3-day event. It's 3 rallies rolled into one weekend, really. When you're taking the mileage and that, it's 3 national events back to back. It's hard on cars. It's very challenging. I suppose it's unique in ways that Donegal as a county is very car orientated. So what we found is, especially along the road sections, people cheering you and clapping you on, and you don't see that anywhere else. Lots of young kids out, and not necessarily in the service area or on the stages. This is on the road sections. The amount of people on the road sections just wishing you well or clapping. Or we found one young man, a very young boy with his dad, and I'm guessing other family members, and he had a sign painted on a piece of plywood, a very simple sign painted with white marker or whatever the case may be, and it just said "Rev it." And if you revved it, all the family waved the flag. It's such a simple thing. And as I said to Stuart, I said, "So we have to put rev it so much." We give him plenty of revs, but that was such a simple thing to make people happy, and at such a young age, 7 or 8 year old kids got it. But he certainly made us smile. But lots of challenging stages. I think the stages, the scenery, the people, they even go into rally office. I suppose we wouldn't see organisers as much as we did in the past. It's all sort of streamlined now, and scrutiny was ran very efficiently there by Jim O'Brien and his crew. The rally office, everyone's friendly, everyone is trying to help you, everyone is trying to accommodate you as much as they can. It was I enjoyed Donegal. We stayed, as you saw, the last day down at the bottom of Knockalla. But yeah, it's nice. I like it. It's the one of the downsides, I suppose, from Limerick here. It's nearly 4.5 hours or whatever the case may be. If you stop for a coffee, it's such a long drive up. Is it worth it? Yes, but of course it's a week. It's a week away from work. That's the big drawback, and it's not for everybody really. Of course, it's enjoyable. It's I suppose when in our childhood it was the Circuit of Ireland, but the Circuit of Ireland has gone a different route in recent years, and this rally would be the pinnacle of Irish motorsport in that it's the biggest event. It's as close as you'll get to the 5-day circuit of old. So being the largest event of the year. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good. Roll on next year, I guess.
Yeah, I'm getting this dreaded dodgy connection sign. So if I hit the deck, you may anchor this right into the deep end here live on air.
Think what you're asking now. Just think what you're asking.
I could. This could come back to bite here straight away. Someone famously said before, "I'm not Pat Kenny, I'm Pat Short." I won't tell you who said it, but anyway,
there was a nice treat we got the weekend there.
Oh yeah,
and we got lovely little mugs as well, little recyclable mugs that you could local coffee shop, all done in the same colour. Lovely little touches now. Just small things like just makes it a more memorable weekend. Yeah. So.
Ryan McHugh, how are you keeping?
Yes, Kevin, how's it going?
Sure, flying it now. Congratulations. Talk us through it.
Over the midnight to get the win up in Donegal. I suppose it's as Anthony said, there's one of the years, so to get the win in it, and we had a good day, but so it was disappointing enough that way now, but delighted to have come out on top.
Yeah, and I suppose that is a bit of a drawback, unfortunately.
Need a good margin at the end, I think.
We won by 5 at the end. I think Del Neves had a spin on the last stage, so ended up being one by 5. So that was good now to get the win. On to Cork now, and hopefully seal the championship maybe if all goes our well. So.
I don't know. There might be a delay on this here. I don't know whether I'm dropping in or out or not. But what I was going to say there was, I suppose one of the reasons why we started with juniors first night and historics after is that sometimes you unfortunately bear the brunt of a blockage and you lose runs, which unfortunately did happen. I know one of them, there was a bereavement or whatever. But that's obviously frustrating. But the next stage then after that, when you do finally get out there, you're kind of like, right, I need to really make this count now, I suppose.
Yeah, we only got Garden in the morning, and to be honest, we were kind of caught sleeping on it, and Atlantic Drive then was cancelled, so we only got one before service, and got back out then, and Garden was gone then the second time, so we ended up just going to Glen, and it looked to be slipping away on us because we were getting no stages, but eventually then we got up and going again, so we were happy now when we come off Glen that we took 10 at the down on it, so we knew it was race on then.
5 seconds in it in the end, I think, was there?
5, yeah. Dylan had
I wonder what the concept.
Sorry, Anthony, you're. This is kind
of there seems to be.
There's a slight delay, I think, on your end there. Yeah.
Is it mine? Is it here the delays? Yeah, it's interesting. There's a delay somewhere on the line, anyway, I guess. Yeah. No, I was just saying you'd wonder. And I don't know because I haven't put any thought into this statement. Did you know the way the juniors or the J1000s as they're called on the gravel, they run ahead of the main field? You'd wonder how that.
I think he's kind of half dropping out, Ryan. It's going to be you and me there for a second. I thought he was the dodgy connection, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think I know what he's going to say about running at the front of the field. I suppose as a junior, have you any particular thoughts on that? Like, I know you're focused primarily on competing, but obviously you don't want to be want to get out there as much as possible,
I never really thought too much about it. It probably wouldn't be a bad idea. At least you would get all the stages. Unfortunately, and maybe then someone of us might block the road then on the main boys. That's what they'd probably be thinking.
Yeah, they'd be giving out about them young boys. They're a bit too eager or whatever. It's kind of what you call it, a catch-22 where you probably can't win regardless. But what's next on the horizon then for you? So you're hoping to wrap things up. That's the target. I know Jason Farrell's been going quite well also for the most part this year, and a few other boys in the hunt there too. So yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it is. Cork 20 now next, so the end of July. So hopefully, it'll be nice to go down there and get the win again. suppose nothing will be easy down there anyway. Jason's been going well all year, so we're hoping for the win again, hopefully. But it'll not be handed to us anyway, I wouldn't say.
Good stuff. Well, listen, well done again. We said we'd only keep you 5 minutes because I know, like a lot of lads, you mightn't be the biggest of talkers or whatever. So thanks for jumping on with us. All right, appreciate it. Well done again. We have he's a roving reporter now. It wasn't outside broadcast. That looks a little bit more promising. I think.
Well, I've no idea. Was I losing service there?
Seemed to be anyway. But while you're getting set up, I'll bring in Tommy O'Connell. How are you keeping, Tommy?
All right, Kieran. How's it going? Good.
Sure, flying it. Talk us through your weekend.
Oh, hey, it was a great weekend.
Congratulations, I should say. Yeah.
Oh, cheers. Thank you. Oh, it was a good weekend, hey, and to be honest, a bit hard to beat that for me now. The Historics and Donegal and the BDA and won it. I couldn't top it, to be honest. So it was all good. Stressful enough now, to be fair. I was myself worked up on it and wanted to get a good result, and thankfully it came at the end up, anyway.
Anthony, you're back there. Do you want to ask Tommy a question?
Yeah, I was watching Tommy coming in because I was actually admiring your race suits, but you looked awful relaxed coming into Park Ferme. Looking at race suits, just I was looking to change the race suit, and I just clapped the design on your one. I went, yeah, I like that. That's nice. But we can't copy that one. Someone has that one already. There's so many different designs out there. But you certainly look relaxed when we saw you. Certainly.
Oh, I was finally relaxed at the end. It was all over, to be fair, but I was really nervous. The Saturday morning, Sunday morning, you know yourselves, not too often I lead anything or won anything, and it all came together, and I thank God.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant, of course, when it does. And of course, the conditions were so changeable. And I suppose a little bit like the juniors, I was talking to one of your compatriots who was on with us before, Tommy Coman, and they broke down on the way to the first stage. And things can just go so wrong so quickly. So
they can, surely.
To come over to win in any category is brilliant. Absolutely.
That's right. No, thank you. No, it was great. No, definitely was a great weekend. So it wasn't, and even though we run behind the main field, we lost about 5 or 6 stages over the 2 days, which it's not. You don't like to see that happening, but it's not much you can do about that unless they run with some of the main field or ahead. But I don't think they want to do that with historic lads, to be honest.
I think even with the tracking system, it allows them to run them if at all possible again. I can only imagine if we didn't have the tracking how many stages we would lose in the current climate.
That's true.
I know certainly stages that would have certainly there were some of them that were actually blocked, so they couldn't get a run in them. And even like we were running back in the midfield there, and even we found that we lost. Well, I suppose one was lost through bereavement. Fanad ran short and didn't run. So there's a few. Garton, I think, had issues on it as well and got stopped the second time, wasn't it?
It did, and see, to be honest, I was at the start line and there was about 30 seconds to go, helmet on, ready to go into first gear, and just ready to go, and next thing I just got the flag, go, had to turn around then.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than that, actually. I've been there where you're sitting on the line and you're so G'd up, and next thing it's like someone burst you, like you just whoo.
That's right. Just ready to go, drop the clutch and go.
Yeah.
Before I said, just sorry to jump in, lads, but I actually had some clips courtesy of Flying Fin Motorsport over at Ryan McHugh and of Mr. Tommy here. So I'm actually going to play both of them. I'll start with you there, Tommy, while I have you on the screen. That's some sound, lads. That is some sound. I always love listening back to the episodes.
No.
Yeah, Jamie, you were pushing it on, boy.
Oh,
I'm saying you were pushing it on, like.
We were pushing it on, surely, yeah. We were fastest twice over Knockalla, and we got John Mulholland special prize for it. So the big push was for it now, and I love Donegal now, to be fair. So I do, and even their times were up there with the Class 13 lads all weekend, and it's hard to believe in a BDA and a ZF box, but you know, and years gone by, I was in the modified class, and I found it tough racing the lads, and then this weekend you seem to be closer in an older car, or an older spec car.
We did an event in the Kilkenny 2 years ago. I can't remember, maybe 3 years ago, in a BDA or like that. And when she's sitting there about 8,500 or 9,000 revs, the noise is just sweet, like to listen to it. It's fabulous.
The noise is right. So
you
take it on out to 10,000 rev, do you hear?
Oh, can you? Oh, wow. I didn't know they could go that far. Yeah, it's fabulous.
Oh, they can go on, so they can. It's great now.
Our friend as well was in touch, Mr. Declan Casey, who obviously was at McDade, and he said, I think over Garton, it was it over Garton? They were quicker than every Class 13 car on that one, which is...
They were, they took a second or a second and a half out of us in Garton, so that, fair play to them. That's some going on the BDA to match a Class 13 Escort. So it is.
And of course, remember, the BDA is only on 13-inch wheels, where everyone else is on bigger wheels and bigger brakes, so it's some achievement.
That's true, that's true. And most of the stages I was coming off them, the brake pedal was riven soft and going to the floor, and even over Donegal the first time, the clutch, I was starting to lose my clutch as well halfway through. It just must have been the fluid just boiling or something, but just using it all the time. But here we got round now, so.
Yeah, it just shows how competitive they are. They may have been built, and of course the historic cars run to the same specification as they did back when they were rallied in the 70s. So they still, as I said, have the ZF box, the 13-inch wheels and the smaller brakes and that. But to see them against, and they're competitive against Class 14 cars as well. Actually, would I be right in saying that Rob Duggan Rob Duggan won the historics in Kilkenny that year, and his overall time was quicker than all the modifieds in the BDA.
Yeah, I think so.
It just shows how quick they are.
Yeah. I think
Craig Breen was similar. That they were quicker than all of us. An amazing piece of kit. The only thing is the power steering. It says hardship without it. It doesn't even have power steering. Yeah.
No power steering. See, to be honest, I'm exhausted yesterday and even today too after the whole weekend. So I'm exhausted now. That's just steering them cars.
Yeah, no need for gyms, lad. Listen, well done again, and thanks to around us. All right.
No bother at all. Thank you very much.
Now I'm going to play Ryan McHugh's clips there because I was supposed to do when he was on, but just to be fair. Good man, Ryan. In fairness, yeah. I've just to finish up on the historics as well. I did get the points up there provided to me, and it is seriously tight. That's all I could say. It's unbelievably tight. There's like 5 or 6 drivers with about 10 points between them. It's nuts, and equally it's very tight in the co-driver standings as well. Like, you know,
it makes for great competition, and obviously there'll be camaraderie between all the different drivers and co-drivers, so it makes it a great competition and keep the battle going and keeps the championship alive all the way down to to Cork. So and the Ulster, of course, and they're going to have some fun. They'll be tired when the year is out.
We're going to switch to modifieds now. Gary Kiernan is on standby. How are you doing, Gary? Good evening.
Not too bad. And yourself, boys?
Flying.
Can you hear me?
You can see my timekeeping isn't great. I told you I'd ring you at 7 o'clock. That went out the window, 5 to 9.
I'll be waiting on you now, Esther, would I?
So where's the time? Yeah.
It's actually funny, Gary.
I was keeping any.
I was getting on to you earlier about internet connections, and I think mine is the worst out of fucking 3 hours on the screen here at the moment.
You were inside that bubble you bought. You were inside in that bubble there you bought, so you can't.
Yeah, and all this padding that looks cheap around it's not so cheap, and the internet connection wasn't cheap either, but for some reason it's acting the bowsy now. But anyway, we're here, we'll plough on while we can. Gary, 13th overall. The pace was just, I don't know, you sum it up for us. I can't find a word.
Mental is just the word for it. Like every year you go up, it seems to get faster and faster. The Darien thing for us is nearly next to impossible, I think. In fairness, Damien Tourish done a good job on Friday staying ahead of the boys. Unfortunately, he went off then on Saturday. But the pace, every stage, it needs to be pin perfect. If you blip at all, you'll count your time that you lose to the top boys. So we struggled a wee bit on Saturday for that extra bit to try and keep with Loughlin and Declan Gallagher. But overall, I'm happy with our weekend.
I have clips of you here as well. Let's fire them up. Again, thanks to Flying Flame Motorsport. That video, I think, will be dropping very, very shortly, lads. So keep an eye out. Eamon always does a great job. But Anthony, do you know what I don't see there? I don't see a hen house with the doors falling off anyway.
No. There's no hen house tonight. That's a white knuckle ride, isn't it? It's the sound is fabulous. You can see why the spectators just love those cars so much.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's the difference in the R5. I think everyone stands back when they hear the Esther coming after the top R5s, and you see the modifieds coming. They're just not as sturdy on the road. They look more dangerous. Maybe they are a wee bit more dangerous, but it's good racing, good lads to race against too.
Well, we're on the modified topics, lads. I have to show this clip of Daniel McKenna. This is save of the century.
This was.
Let's give her a welly here.
Long medium left to Chevron, 170. Muddy fast, medium left over bump, continues for 80. Muddy fast, medium left, continues over bump for 86. Straight left, too fast, side over bump, 200 down over small bridge, 80. Left, turn on 6 square right. Get around. 1 square right. Go back. Left over crest. Left over after crest, jump 130. Long after the easy right over bump, and that's too fast, left in over bump. 170, repeat after too fast, left in over bump, long fast right, slowing it easy left 40. Right entry 4.
You alright?
Yep.
How do we reckon you're going to
Back it, you go 100 out of it.
Back tires don't come.
Absolutely.
I had to let it play on because he just went back on the gas straight away. Fucking unbelievable. That's all I can say.
What I liked about it is to see the way he waited till he got back up to about 100 mile an hour again before he asked her why was he okay. The co-driver. I said, that's.
I think the noise in the middle of that was actually Grennan shitting himself, I think.
I must say the co-driver, I don't know the chap, man, he never missed a beat. He just kept calling, and I'd said our hearts had stopped. The blood was just finding its own way around there for a few minutes, but he kept talking. And I went, Jesus. I presume that's why Daniel asked him, was he okay? But I'm sure it wasn't normal to keep talking when something like that goes wrong.
Grennan had loads of experience, and he would have been in a lot of situations with Daniel over the years of big offs, and it would have been on top of their game for years, and they're coming back. So I look forward to seeing them later on, or even if when you get this year over next year in Donegal, I'd say he'll be one very hard to keep with.
It was fabulous to watch it. That in-car, which is all done with the graphics and the rev counter, it really gives a sense of what's happening as opposed to some of the other ones. I hadn't seen that before, but it's very well done. I see a G-force indicator. If you see it when it was spinning, it's bouncing around, and the rev counter, the speedometer, it's some technology now that's in that.
It's some save, lads. Like, what's Gary? You've been in hairy moments like that. Like, everything happens so quickly, but yet I've asked lads this question before. They seem to be able to remember everything. Every bit is clear, even though it happens so quickly. Are you of the same mindset?
If that was me, I'd be upside down below the next junction, probably. I just wouldn't get away with that. Look, it It is, in fairness, a very good save, but there is a lot of luck involved. Daniel done well. He corrected himself, but when it went sideways like that, it's luck to get you through a lot of them, but then driving helps as well.
Yeah, of course, it's the unfortunate of having the rock in the grass or the stone or the piece of timber or something. Everything just fell into place for him, so he was able to just control it. I think Gary is probably of the same mindset with myself. If we had ducks, they'd drown. In that, we were in that situation, we'd find the one and only rock or pothole in the whole county. But it makes for fabulous views. I can imagine with, I think the most popular thing nowadays is how many hits you get on YouTube. That's the number one hit there. She'll be in the thousands before the week is out, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's an amazing piece of footage, in fairness. The modified pace in general, Gary, so while you're evidently not laying off, like Kevin Gallagher still has a full minute to spare, I think, over James Stafford, which that is mental, like, really, in fairness, isn't it?
Yeah, we did a lot of winding at Kevin and the boys, Darren, I get on well with Kevin. He builds my engine and stuff, so we'd be at him with the bathtub. Did you bring your canoes with you? So we'd be winding him that it's a bathtub. And where's your paddle? The two boys, him and Ryan have a paddle apiece. That's why it's so fast.
I tell you what, this podcast is going on a slippery slope. From hen houses to bathtubs, I'll tell you, from a hen house to a bathtub, where are we going?
Ducks mentioned there as well. Yeah.
The boys enjoy the crack and the slagging, and look at things have moved on. The escorts are fast, but I still, if it's power to rate ratio and then the engine across the back wheels, the better aerodynamics. I'm not making excuses. I wouldn't beat them on a good day, but like the boys drove between him and James, they drove a perfect rally. Kevin usually is slow on Friday and just takes off come Knockalla, and on Saturday after lunch, he reeled in boys. If you look back the years, he reeled in boys them days, and maybe I know 2 years he might have went off. But usually Friday he sits back once he's within 30 seconds and then takes off Saturday. This year, I think he got that much slagging. He just went from the word go, and it seemed to work out very well for him.
Yeah, do you know the thing is though? He got an unmerciful spin, and you reckon there was something up like that when he touched the brake pedal. I think it was just like pulling a handbrake, and he got away with a big one there. In fairness, didn't he? I don't know whether he get to the bottom of that completely or what caused it, but that's scary shit. Like,
is this Kevin Gallagher or Kevin?
No,
Eves?
Kevin Eves. Kevin Eves.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Kevin Eves. Well, it could have been cold tires. He said all went to the back. But then you Donegal, you come to everyone wants to be the quickest, and the push is on the first stage. So unless you got a test with heavy braking and stuff like that, I know we put on new bigger brakes. Everything could have been cold, but he was unfortunate, but lucky enough in a way too that he got away with what he did.
You'd wonder in the class 14 is where there was two categories before. You'd always the class 14 escorts say the same as your own, which was kind of the pinnacle, and then the Darians came, and there seems to be a huge disparity. But do you think that with the Starlets now arriving in, that the Starlet is fitting it kind of quicker than the escort but slower than the Darien? It looks to be fitting there in the middle somewhere.
No, I wouldn't say that. If you look at Declan Gallagher over the years, he was always very, very quick. He used to beat us when we were coming up, even through class 13. He used to beat us well. And the weekend, Ryan Loughlin showed that the pace was there, and Tours showed that he could beat him.
Yeah.
And on stages, when we get good stages, we could match him. And ones, that's what I said. When you feel that you blip too early or you lift the throttle or brake slightly too early, you can count to seconds. You'll know that's not good enough. You know when you come off that you're 3 or 4 down. You can nearly count exactly where they are. So that's where the pace has gone. Every corner needs to be perfect to be on the pace.
So I wanted to ask you, sorry, Anthony, okay. I wanted to ask you about the Cooper tires. There seems to be glowing, I suppose, indictments out there. Everyone seems to be fairly happy with them. The difference between them, like, what are you noticing? Little subtle things, or
subtle things? Some of the tires are a wee bit more forgiving. So when you get moments and stuff, we had a moment, or if you land slightly wrong on a jump, there's a wee bit of movement in them. Traction seems good. They have a bit of a base, so I can go run on a 215, a 235, or a 195 on the front. So it's just trial and error, and we're happy there now. We started in Galway on them, and we won in Galway, so I was delighted with that. West Cork and the drier rallies, they seem to have a harder compound and want to work with you to make a better tyre.
That's the background of them, because like I haven't met too many people that have been critical of them. Now I know a few lads are sponsored by them as well, so maybe they don't want to give out about them. But no, in general, all joking aside, lads are quite complimentary of them. Like so.
Well, sure, Tourish was leading on Friday with them. Yeah. Beating the well Friday morning. He wiped me on the same tire, so he was Eves is on them too. There's a right few. Look at the more tire manufacturers out there is better for every competitor, so it gives them more of a choice of what they want to buy and what they want to run.
Anthony, you had a question there. I interrupted you, so
no, not at all. No, I was saying about, because it's a little. I was never on a car that had used them. But I was saying the proof of the pudding was in the eating, in that, as Gary just said, the people are winning on them, and winning is everything. Like, so it just proves that the product is good, and certainly the more people, as he said, is on them, they'll develop them better, and more guys will go on them. So I guess they're looking at improving their sales and getting into a market that's dominated by probably 4 manufacturers currently. Sure, the more the merrier. A 5th one, and let's just see.
Yep. I'm going to ask you this question, Gary. It's going out to our listeners and viewers as well. It's one of the things we're starting to move into, this whole interactive thing where we're going to put things out there and get competitors' opinions, spectators' opinions, etc., etc. But the first thing we wanted to put out there tonight, and it's mainly for competitors, this one, I suppose, is the refueling. Did you think it was a success, and any thoughts on it in general?
Yeah, the fueling it's a bit more awkward. You need to bring extra men to service. You need to be up the road. You need to have your fuel there. Yeah, the refueling would be a good idea, a separate fueling zone, if you buy it off a pump. So just say, if get one fuel supplier for everyone, make it a competitive price, and you go there and you pay on the day as you use, rather than it's a bit of mayhem. Everton, there could be like 200 cars fuel supply up in one spot, drums labelled. It's a lot of work. Yeah, it's safer, but I'd rather if there was actually one fuel station and one fuel supplier. So it cuts out, if there is any cheating, I don't know if there is or not, but if there is any cheating or upgraded fuel, everyone's on the one base.
Anthony?
Yeah, I concur with everything he says. It's the fueling for us, it was awkward. We didn't have the manpower. So basically, when we would leave the service area, and because we had troubles on Friday and Saturday, we were leaving on the last minute with like 2 minutes to go to the control. And then one of our guys, we only had 2, had to run up the road, and the poor man was exhausted because we'd get there before him. So we had pipes and vents, and we'd get the fuel over for him. It was just awkward. It was just too far away to make it practical, really. As Gary says, it's just, small things. Had we known it was such a distance in advance, we'd have brought bicycles. You'd no way of getting them in up there, because you'd no cars in service, you'd no access to a car. A bicycle or a scooter would have been ideal, but obviously we didn't bring it because we weren't aware of how far away it was. I know historically, saying the Ulster and the circuit many years ago, I've seen where the refueling was a couple of kilometres away. And, some people will argue the point to it, sure, look, that was work back then. Well, they also got rid of it back then. The refueling area needs, if you're going to run the current system without what Gary's saying about the pumps, a refueling area needs to be within a short walking distance of the service area. And if you can't have that, the pump is the future. As Gary, and he's dead right, it eliminates the cheating because everyone's on the one fuel in regardless. And it ends the, you agree a price at the start of the year for everybody. And you just arrive up to the pump and you scan your credit card. Certainly about 10 years ago, and Gary would probably remember this, maybe not 10 years ago, but it was it Donegal Oil or one of these companies tried it, and I think Morrow Fuels and a couple of other companies tried it. But I don't think it was financially viable because it was only the homologated cars were coming into this. So everybody would have to get on board with this, every person. But there'll be, you'll be restricted to 1 or 2 different brands or whatever the legal fuel is. Yeah, so the pay by card at the pump area, go through, pump it in and leave. And it'll be done by professionals, pump fuel fillers, so you don't have hand actor partners. So that's the future, I'd say, where we're going with this. And then you won't have to worry about bringing extra in, because even as and Gary's right, agreed the price at the start of the year for the championship. Now that may not be very feasible. You might have to, we all see the way fuel fluctuates, albeit I don't see race fuel has fluctuated as much as pump fuel has. But yeah, it's definitely
steer enough without fluctuating anymore.
Jeez, I know, yeah. But no, it's definitely the way forward. So you would like to think that they'll put something like that out to tender. I know the whole fueling thing is new and people are just trying to get it off the ground. I suppose it's not new in the sense that the Donegal ran to FIA regulations, so it's mandatory in those regulations for quite a while. But
there's a couple of comments on it. So Tony O'Driscoll has 2 comments. The first one was refueling is an accident waiting to happen, too much fuel in one area, too many spills, etc. And then he said, Anthony, you're 100% right in relation to what you just said. Kevin Duggan has said in the North and the UK, the crew does their own refueling at a separate area. Works okay there? ? Any thoughts?
Does it work okay? Yeah, well, I would have done the Northern Ireland Championship for years, and it does work, but it's normally right next to the service area, so the guys will just walk out, pump the fuel, and walk back in again. It's never a long distance away. It doesn't go on all the rounds. Some of the rounds don't. You still refuel in service, but certainly. Now, one of the things that I thought would happen, I thought that Donegal would actually have made it mandatory that everybody would take their everyone would transport their fuel to the refueling area by a certain time before the event started. But that order was never given, so there was, as Gary says, then there was a bit of chaos trying to get the fuel up there, trying to get a vehicle and trying to organise to get it up to the refueling area before the start of the event. But yeah, it's and another thing which is, I suppose, it has to run. We would have we fueled the car the day before the rally, before scrutiny. So we fueled it for the first 42 litres or whatever before the first loop on Friday. But because we run to FIA regulations, and I won't say the competitor's name now, it isn't fair, but a competitor came into a bit of bother maybe 6 or 7 years ago on the circuit for this, where even though we had fuel on board, we had to follow the road book up to the refueling area, drive through the refueling mats and come back around again. So you still have to go there because you're following the road book. Because I see someone get excluded for rally, but some years back for not following the road book. So yeah, if they could allow people and to keep the congestion out, if you fuel the night before, make it that you don't have to go to the refueling area. Maybe, I don't know. As I said, it's all new and there's lots of different bits of trial and error, I'm sure. But Gary's right. The pump, the credit card, pay for your fuel, scan the card, and you're out of there. That's the way forward.
Done and dusted, yeah. Someone, Gavin Gorman has said, Alcorn time over Garton. Madman. Yeah, serious time. In fairness. And then, actually, do you know what? Gary, while I have you, and you've been very good with your time, I'm going to, I was going to move on to a different topic, but 2 more comments are coming about the fueling, so I may get to them first. Greg McCarthy, regarding the refueling, that was the most sensible thing Gary has ever said. But he is right, and that's what organisers need, is feedback like that. So
we better not say that Donegal is better than West Cork, or Greg will get hard offended.
That's true. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Mick Lonergan has added to that it's basically a danger as well. One small fire and there may be some bang with the drums knocking about.
Well, I suppose one of the things I saw on the circuit this year, which I thought was a good idea, and I know not every competitor now will agree with me on this, you were not allowed pump fuel from a jerry can. It was dry link coupling only. No. Now, well, I don't know how they work with the historic cars. Actually, I should have asked Tommy when he was on there. I don't know what way the historic cars worked, or maybe they worked to different regulations on the circuit this year. But there was no open filling of fuel at all. So if you go with Gary's idea, open a fueling area where you have dry link couplings, you have a pumping station, you have all your, you haven't all, but you have the danger eliminated by 80%, because the fuel itself never sees the light of day. No one ever actually gets to see the fluid, and there's no leaks and no drips. So the dry link coupling with the fueling station. I assume your car is dry link, Gary, is it?
As I told you, it barely has doors. Never mind. No, No, I don't have the couplings. They're there.
No.
Like if you have.
Are they? Yeah, as I said,
There could be like, even if you wanted to get a pump and a return for yourself and the fittings, it could be nearly €800 like for that setup.
Oh wow! Okay,
they aren't cheap. They're definitely 600 or 700. They are very expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, well, as I said, I know I wouldn't be popular with the idea, so
that yeah, I can't see it working with everyone.
Brian Duggan's been in touch. He said Luke McCarthy has dry links on his historic car. Then and a few more coming in. John McCabe has said in Belgium a few years ago, we had to pull up at a pump, tell them how many litres we wanted, and then write the litres into the book and pay for the fuel after the rally. No hassle and fast. There you go. I'm going to have to move on to the next one. So we actually had this as a topic, kind of, with a bit of a twist on it, but I'll read out the question in its original sense first. Kieran Harrison's been in touch. How do the panel feel about the lack of On the Limit Sports covering rallies? Is it going to affect drivers getting sponsorship going forward? And then just to put that out there, I suppose, to be clear as well, it's not like On the Limit Sport not covering rally. It's kind of the club is not opting for the coverage. That's my understanding of it. So just to put the question to Gary, though, and I'll bring it to you, Anthony, as well. How do you feel? Like, obviously, when you're going to look for a few bob off someone, Gary, like, is that going to have an effect? I'm sure it does.
Yeah, well, every bit of media coverage you can get for your sponsors helps. So if you're seen on telly, or if it's Facebook Live, or on video clips, or anything helps your sponsors. Once they've been seen, most of them are happy. So if you're not been seen or not, like my opinion is I'd rather see it broadcast on TV, but it's the clubs that have to pay for it at the end of the day, so I can't really argue with their decision or what's going on. I don't know. Do
you want to mention your sponsors before I put that to Anthony, actually, just so I'll have it?
Jeez, I nearly need to get a I nearly need to get a list. My yoke's like a moving billboard there this minute.
That's a good thing.
I'd nearly have
if he turns around and says sponsored by Kentucky Fried Chicken, I'm just going to get bent over for the hen house.
No. There's Kiernan Millen, Paul and Vincent Feeds, McKenna Precision Engineering. The list goes on and on. There's O'Donoghue's Carry Out Bailborough.
Don't leave anyone out now. This is where it gets fun.
I nearly need to switch off and get the picture of the car.
Yeah, but you know what? We showed the car earlier, didn't we? So
I'm telling you, you need to get every angle. There's nearly sponsors underneath it now at this stage. And without them, in fairness, the rallying wouldn't be possible for me. Like, they give you all the support. You could do a lot of national events, but to be competitive at the top, you need a budget there to keep going. And only for them, I wouldn't be where we are today racing.
Mm-hmm. So Anthony, I'll get your thoughts on this, and I'll put in the other little twist that we had then, or if you want to put it in, double it up, one ahead.
No, I'll leave you at it. Yeah, I suppose. Look, if you look, I see it came out. Motorsport Ireland some years ago bought all the RPM footage, and they were showing the '96 Donegal was broadcast there recently, and I was watching it here at home. And I suppose it's sad when you think about it. That was the 25th anniversary when Andrew Nesbitt won it in the Celica. It was his first international win. It was lovely to look back in those events. But there is Donegal International on its 50th event. And in 20 years' time, we've nothing to look back at. Don't get me wrong. The social media footage is very good. And it does get live listeners on the moment. But in years to come, when you want to go back and watch I would be a TV program man myself. When you go back to watch the TV program, there's now nothing to look back on the 50th Donegal, which is sad, really. But then again, you go just to fall in on what something Gary said. At the end of the day, it's a club decision, and the club have to pay for it. Now, of course, where does the club get its money? It gets its money from the competitor. So then I would ask the question, give or take, $7,000 a day for television, and I could be out plus or minus 1,000 to do here. So $7,000 a day, say 21 or 22, say 22 grand to do Donegal. You divide that by 150 or 60 cars, 160 cars, I think they're allowed to run, maybe just a bit more with historics and juniors. And you're looking at what, €130, give or take, per car. So then it'd be interesting to do a poll sometime. Would the competitors be willing to jack the entry fee up €130 to get television coverage for 30 cars or 40 cars or however many gets that Mick can fit in his program, 50 cars, whatever. So I suppose that's, it's all down to pounds and pence at the end of the day. Would it be nice to have it? Absolutely. Is it missed? Absolutely. But someone has to pay for it. So everything gets paid for by the competitor. Don't be under any illusion. There's only one man paying the bills, and that's the competitor. So I'm not a driver, but it will be up to the driver or the bill payer in the team. Would you be willing to pay €130 per vehicle for to gather 20,000 to pay for TV coverage? It's a fair question in that I don't think anyone has ever asked the competitor, asked for his thoughts on it. So it would be a good poll to do at the next event that starts a full entry, Tipperary or the next couple of events, or even the Cork 20, to get a... Kevin O'Riordan is a very switched on guy down there. He listens to this program. To be a good for them even to do a survey. Would you be willing to pay 130 quid onto your entry fee for TV coverage for this event for next year? So at least then they could plan over the winter months and go forward and say, okay, lads, these guys are willing to pay for it. So let's just do it. Because once you have the money in place, that's all you're short.
Yeah,
and on you go. But I think it's sad. As I said, the social media thing is fine. It's a little bit repetitive, but it's good. But the TV coverage is, the likes of my mother or sponsors especially. Yes, social media is lovely and is topical and is probably for a slightly younger audience. But if someone had a serious sponsor, it's really TV coverage. In a lot of cases, I'm not saying all the cases. I know that the whole move, people want information right now. And I'm sure that some people will come on this program and debate that they don't like TV coverage because we don't see the program for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks on a channel that we may not have heard of. But look, there's for and against. I'm sure there's arguments both ways. But I think it's in years to come, it'll be sad that we can't look at Gary or we can't look at Damien Tourich's efforts. It'll be forgotten about because social media moves so quickly. It's yesterday's news. Whereas now we love looking back at the old RPM footage and it's just, just remembering back. And it's lovely to have a record kept of what happened. But the 50th only happens once and it's now come and gone and there's no record of it. So I think from the club's point of view, that's sad. But it's only an opinion.
A couple of more comments. Just Alan Brown has said local businessmen secured the cost of recording the program after hearing it wasn't happening. It was just too late. That's a comment that's come in. 2 comments along the same lines. Just different car number. Why should car 131 pay and get no coverage? And another one was why should car 89 pay but not get seen on the footage? I suppose that's the counter argument straight away.
Yeah, it is true. It is true.
Yeah.
What do you think in general, Gary? Just on that, and then I suppose double up with another question that's come in, and I've kind of half-asked it, but would you see that as a big drawback when you're going to look for a few pound off someone? Obviously, it has to be a big thing when you're going to look for it.
Yeah, it depends. I have secured most of my sponsors there over the last number of years, so now they're sort of, here's a few pound, Gary, get away and don't be annoying me. Nearly at this stage, they're and they're loyal sponsors and they've stuck with me for these couple of years. But I'd say go and trying to get new big sponsors. Yes, it will be an issue that there's no live TV coverage. Definitely, it's a negative thing, I think.
Someone has asked, could the spectator pay for TV, as there's a lot of people in Donegal?
You'd wonder what is that. There's obviously some reason why that can't be, because you see in other countries how it's possible. I don't know, can you ask people to pay to use a public highway to go in and watch it? I don't know. It'll be a legal argument, I'm sure. That's certainly outside my pay grade, but
if they took if they took a fiver of every person that was up on Donegal, they'd have some money. It was just wedged. Yeah, it was wedged.
Yeah, it was. I'd maybe not charge them. Maybe go another road, and you'll always get the fellas that won't pay and will jump the hedge. But if you set up a little area where you got a nice tabard or a hat or something, and you were made feel that, I've contributed, call it a contribution maybe as opposed to a payment. It's something I'd love to look into, but it's certainly outside of my, as I said, outside of my program. Maybe someone asked for a contribution So if you were, say, like if you look at it in the car park in Knockalla there, you know, when we come down to the T-junction garage, see the field inside there,
the field,
it's a $5 a car, like.
The park.
$5 a car to park the car. Well, it was years ago. I'm sure it isn't got cheaper. And
it is.
The hairpin in Knockalla, the hairpin at the back end of the stage there, where David Bogie came unstuck there a couple of years ago. That long straight for the hairpin right.
Yeah,
there's another field there. He's a $5 as well, I think.
Yeah,
so, you know,
but that field was full. That field was full again. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, another McLaren is back again. He said most spectators would surely be willing to throw a few euro of a voluntary contribution. At the end of the day, they're getting the best show on earth for free. Keane Love said, have to agree with Anthony and Gary. That comment is just that they're flying down a little bit. TV coverage will definitely be missed. Only recently just looked back on Donegal from 18 and 19 that I had recorded. Social media is great, but TV coverage is hard bet when it comes to the wider audience overall for sponsors and business to be seen. Now, Brian Doug has been in touch as well, and the picture of his father watching the Facebook Live on the day is there too, just to put balance to it. Like, it's a lovely photo, to be honest with you. It's really, really nice. Terry Hegarty says, why should clubs have to choose between online and traditional television when they can have both? Now, before I read the rest of the comment, I have said this a few times on this program, Anthony, in fairness. Why does the cost have to be completely passed on to clubs and competitors when there are genuinely other options? Perhaps we could ask MI to look at the possibility of approaching this problem in a similar way to the tracking system and come up with the best solution for all events across the board, bring the cost down. That's with a question mark. I have an idea of how it could be done. There you go. And sorry, I'll get through the last two, lads. Sorry. Like the system in Belgium, wristband for €5 to spectate anywhere. And then even the sports news on RTE don't do enough. That's a comment from
I thought like the likes of the result, the Donegal rally, the biggest rally of the year, at least the winner should be mentioned on RTE News. Like, it's a huge, huge event, but I don't think some people are too bothered.
Yeah. Do you know what, Gary, just to touch on that, I don't want to go into it completely, but that man's jersey behind me, unfortunately, when he had his accident 3 years ago, it was all over the place.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
And I didn't see a whole lot about the rally before that happened, which pissed me off at the time now.
That's the way it is. That's the way it goes, sure. Like, no news is good news. That's my statement. Yeah. You know, that's sort of way they'll only publish anything that's bad or damaging for the rally.
Yeah, that's fair, yeah.
Yeah, so
it's
we're better off with.
That's where we are. Gary, what's next on the agenda? I know you've been very busy this year, but what are we looking at next?
Probably go to the J1, sit with a J1000 below.
I meant to ask you about that. Sorry. Yeah.
That's a first cousin of mine, and I just decided we'd get him into rallying and stuff. He's enjoying it. He finished 4th the first day and 5th in class the second day. But maybe I'm not the right man to be sitting with him. Maybe I'm too competitive, roaring and shouting at him. I just have to tell him at the end of every stage, I don't mean to be giving out. I'm just trying to make it go a bit faster. But it's definitely very, very, very good for the next generation. So we'll just keep trying to push them forward in that way.
What's his surname? Danny, isn't it?
Yeah, Danny Brady.
That's the one.
He's 40. Right. We got him a car for... Yeah, his 14th birthday was Saturday, so we got him the car that Wednesday night. We brought him to a Rally Sport Association event on the Saturday. I had him booked in to do his rally license on the Sunday, and the following week he done his first rally a week after his 14th birthday.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Yeah,
so you've just highlighted something the way you said you apologised to him at the end of the stage and say you don't mean to be given out to the driver. I reckon that's where I'm going wrong all these years. I never apologised to him at the end of the stage.
Yeah, well, sure, he's only a child, so I'm going to keep him sort of going in the right direction.
That's a brilliant story.
One last thing I was going to say before I let you go is I don't know how Red Bull and Benson the Hedges, I don't know how Benson the Hedges haven't come on board with you, because every time I see her on the service park, it's a can of Red Bull.
No Red Bull this weekend now, not one. Well, maybe coming home Monday I had one, but stayed off it this weekend. Try and get as much water on board. The 3 days is hard in the system. With the heat in the car, I don't know, my car must have been about 50 degrees inside. Oh, geez, it was warm all weekend, and the 3 days would take a lot out of you. So my fitness just wouldn't be up to standard of some of the boys. So you just try and have to keep yourself going as best as possible.
Yeah, you're not 5K or a gym man. You're hard labour, Red Bull.
Benson, keep the thing going on. Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Didn't you actually? Very last thing, Anthony. Didn't you have a story with Gary? I think it was down in West Cork when Gary knew. I think it was the axle giving a bit of go for something.
Yeah. It was just a bit of noise come into it before the last stage.
Yeah. I think Anthony wasn't too far away from you on the start line there, and it was a case of we'll down to Red Bull or something. See how we get on.
I remember. I was saying to myself, "What in the Jesus are you on about now?" Yes, we were. Oh yeah, and the axle packed up then a bit into it, but you were so enthusiastic. We were having a good giggle about it. You had dropped a shitload of time. You had we had to push you off the start. I think push you to get you going. And you had a can of Red Bull and fired it in. Come on. And you all wired up. And next thing, a mile down the road, here you are sitting on the side of the road drinking the can. It was so positive and there was such enthusiasm. I said, Jesus, if you could bottle that and sell it, you'd make a fortune.
Yeah. Well, what's meant for you will not go by you. So we knew going into the last stage in West Cork, if it's going to stop, it's going to stop. We'll try our best. And it did. You can't win them all.
We could find them even following you on. There was a smell of gear oil. There was a smell of oil. And I said, Jesus, this fella's in trouble. And sure enough. Yeah.
The boy that runs the car has be always given out to me. I will drive the car till it stops. That's the problem. Never matter what the noise is. Until something explodes, I will keep driving.
So the red light in the dash is irrelevant.
No, I asked the engine builder about that. That was only the red light is, and I thought you were on about the in-car I put up a Donegal. There is a red light on the dash, but it's okay. It's only
I'm on about the oil pressure light. That's irrelevant. Just keep
keep going well. I wouldn't do that. Now,
I know.
Everton bar that noises. I just don't really pass much remarks.
Yeah. Gary, it's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed having you on, and thanks for jumping on with us. All right.
Cheers, boys. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Man. Absolutely brilliant.
That man he's a fucking superstar, that boy.
Yeah, we've another bit to get through. Bernard Bradley said, I heard Martin Walsh doing a roundup report on RT Radio 1 on Sunday afternoon. Richie Long says, we need more competitors like Gary to sit with the J1000s. Well done, Gary. And Ryan Brennan, what's the thoughts of Fana cut short over lack of marshals, which kind of segues us nicely because we have a statement in from Caroline McGuinness, obviously well known and well respected around the country on the marshal front and running stages, which I'll read out. I'll read the statement as it was sent in.
Just before you go to that, actually, just an apologies actually for interrupting you. Just as you mentioned Martin Walsh, like Martin, only for Martin, there'd probably be no coverage in this country from a print media perspective. But Martin actually had 3 or 4 slots, 3 actually, on Radio 1, one being several minutes long. During the Donegal Rally, it was the only that obviously along with the Highland radio program, which is excellent, but obviously it is local. But from a national perspective, and I even see here with our local rally in Limerick, even Martin would get onto our local paper, which was the Limerick Leader, it's called, and there was an article in the Limerick Leader after the event. So only for Martin, and he's involved in the different championships, but he's a stalwart. I don't see anyone coming on behind him. I hope he's really, really good and very dedicated. Like, he had a couple of thousand words in some of these articles, and they're excellent. And obviously he does the motoring news and the different publications. You would see his name attached to them. So well done, Martin Walsh. Sorry, go back to you.
I want to give Adam Hall a shout out as well with Rally Insight. I think that's fantastic service and definitely worthy of a shout out before I go back to this. So, like, Caroline got in touch when we had the post up a little bit earlier about aren't you want us to raise on the show, and as always we do when we try to do so in a fair manner. And to say she wasn't happy about a few things is probably a bit of an understatement. So what I'll do is I'll actually read out the statement sent in, and it's titled "Issues Arising from Donegal International Rally 22." Firstly, as a stage commander and on behalf of other stage commanders, information regarding our stages and run up to the event was non-existent. Normally, we are given a map so we can check out our stages and are told what our stages are a few months before the event. This is only confirmed a few weeks before the event and made it difficult for some to get I think there's a typo here. It says PR done. I think maybe that is what she means. But anyway, we are very busy with other events in the run of Donegal. We normally get a paper of the safety plan, but more or less had to beg for a safety plan to be emailed over and print out ourselves. It makes it far easier to allocate marshals to junctions when you have a safety plan. You would have found hen's teeth easier than a safety plan in the run up to the event. I know there was hold-ups in getting paperwork approved, but a draft with possibilities of changes could be sent out. With regards to marshals, running a long stage myself on Friday, I decided to put a post up on my Facebook group, Marshals in NI, to get a few extra, as there seemed to be little promotion looking for marshals. To say I was inundated with replies and messages from marshals wanting to help was an understatement. I spent the following 2 days at the kitchen table for 6 or more hours, both days, chatting to people wanting to help. It was either they'd seen nothing anywhere looking for marshals, or they had sent their details and maybe hadn't got a reply. I had extra marshals for my 2 stages and ended up helping to fill 3 other stages. I'm not in any way boasting or looking for praise. It's trying to explain how many marshals were contacting me looking for help. Marshals meet-up points were only put up on the Monday/Tuesday of the week of the rally, when everyone was asking long before that as to where they were to be and what time. Service in Letterkenny was a total nightmare, and it was a contributing factor in a lot of marshals giving up on trying to get to the Mount Errigal for dinner. Normally meal tickets are given out for at least 3 locations on them for marshals to eat. Now, I do know, I think on Saturday there was 2 anyway, but maybe someone will correct us on that, but I'll continue the statement. This year only the Mount Errigal was printed on it. Again, that's, I think, in relation to Friday. One marshal, after 12 hours on the stage Saturday, had no lunch given to them and had to buy their dinner that evening. A quote from a message that Caroline got: after spending €200 on fuel travelling up, least we expected was to be able to get food. She goes on to say in the statement, some marshals were handed out burgers or buns still half frozen. Another point marshals make was looking for a celebration gift for the 50th anniversary for them, like Anthony, you showed the pen. But I'll move on with the statement again. Even at sign-on, if a load of stickers were printed and one handed out to each marshal, they weren't asking for anything expensive, just a wee token. They appreciated the club provides accommodation for marshals and at the high cost of that, but many marshals have stated you wouldn't have even known it was 50th celebration this year. Obviously, I think she means that in relation to the marshals. They have also stated they won't be back, and that is with some that have marshalled for years. I don't know if it was the case if there was less people in the organisation team run up to the event, or if it was a money-saving exercise with the rising cost of events, but it clearly didn't work. Maybe there's a few taking on too much, and the important things are forgotten about or overlooked, but this needs to be addressed when preparing for other events, or marshals won't come back. Marshals and stage commanders are hard enough to get and not getting any easier to get. So in summary, good communication, give stage commanders all the info they need plenty of time so they can run stages effectively, look after your marshals. That's the statement that's been sent in to us from Caroline McGuinness.
Wow. I suppose they're the things we don't appreciate really as competitors, what goes on behind the scenes. I know certainly Caroline, I've met her once or twice, and she works really, really hard. We met her she was trying to organise a photograph for a young man there on the circuit, I think. And we got a young man sitting in the car, and she was just trying to accommodate a family at the end of the stage that wanted a little picture of a young man in a car. As regards what she said, wow.
It's strong. It's very strong.
It's strong, yeah. Well, sure, look, it is what it is, I guess.
The right reply will be given to anyone from Donegal Motor Club as well. There's no problem that way, as always here on the show. A representative from Donegal Motor Club that I was in touch with is absolutely just up to his neck, and wasn't available to come on this evening. So that's fair and understandable. It's been a long weekend, and very good job done in the line of work that he was doing. So understandable. But if anyone else wants to come on, there's no problem that way.
I will say there was one word in her statement which caught me, that we have heard it discussed many times, that famous C word, communication. It's the be all and end all. There was one thing that you mentioned there that you thought it may have been a typo. I don't think it was, when she mentioned PR. So basically the likes of the stage commander would get the safety plan of her route months in advance. And she's right in what she said. It doesn't have to be the last version or the final version or the approved version by the governing body. It just has to be any bloody version, because it'll give you within 80 or 90% of your manpower where they're going to be, the rough location. Will it be fine-tuned in the final one? Probably. Does it matter? Doesn't matter a damn. At least she has something to start working with, or any stage commander has something to start working with. Publishing or holding that information to the last minute, like if you think about it, I don't know why the reason would be why you'd be holding this safety plan so long, because the stage commander needs it to see how many people she's going to require in Caroline's case, where she's going to put them, where they're going to travel from, and she can be planning this for weeks and weeks and weeks in advance. I'll put 2 at this junction and 2 there, and she knows how many junctions. And it might be out 5% because it's not the final draft, but at least she'll be 80% over the line. But not to communicate the safety plan if that turns out to be the case. That's it made her life misery, I'm sure, if you don't get that information out, because obviously you're then told to the last minute, oh, by the way, you need 60 people, and now you're running out of time to organise them. She mentioned the service area for the status that the event is. The biggest event in the country was the service area suitable, not by a long shot. It was a gravel, rough surface, obviously only put down in recent weeks. Maybe it was the only thing that was available. And if it was...
Jamie Johnson says it was a joke. Letterkenny service was a joke.
It was a shocking. And to be fair, they were lucky really in that it didn't rain. I saw them, the tyre companies, all the tyre companies, and I remember the weather was good now for the most part, and the muck and the puddle that they were working in was shocking. I saw one leading competitor on the way out, and his car was nearly at 30 degrees on a gravel bank. Up on jacks, and obviously they got moved afterwards. No, it wasn't even close to being suitable for what it was, for what was being used for. Now, we were probably lucky in a way that our guys had a concrete area, so we were a little bit lucky, but very confined. I won't get into too much. Let's just leave it at the fact that it's not becoming of the event that it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I wasn't up there at the weekend, just to point out, so I don't know how good or how bad it was from a marshalling point of view, but I would just like to point out in the times I have been there that I felt that I've been treated very well, and I'm sure there's people there that have marshalled this year that marshalled for years as well, and they have probably seen, maybe they did, maybe they didn't see a bit of a difference, but I just want to put that on record that when I was there, it was good treatment for me, but it's not to say that it was or wasn't good treatment for everyone this year. But there is a few comments that have come in relation to this. Plenty of drivers and navigators sitting on the ditch in Donegal, not putting up anything back into the sport when they could have been marshalling. That came in from Jonathan Paul Carroll. Tony O'Driscoll has said 3-stage format is a very long day for marshals. 4-stage format makes it easier on marshals. Clubs need to consider this, especially when marshals travel a long way. Andrew Wedlock says, fair play to Caroline, she does so much for Irish rallying. And then Richie Long, if a rally has, say, 30 on a reserve list, why can't they marshal on that one event and would give an event 60 marshals, which would probably run one stage and guarantee them an entry on that event the year after?
Yeah, absolutely.
We need more competitors to go marshalling. I've a couple of other comments as well. Our good friend Tommy Kaman, who's in touch, reckons that appealing for marshals urgently on Sportify over the weekend didn't make sense, as the majority of platform users are competitors. My only guess there on that one is that they would maybe pass on the word to other people. That sort of way. So
Tony O'Driscoll is right, actually. And just to follow on a comment that Tommy made there, the 2x2 format. So obviously, there's for and against it. The for part of it, obviously, is that the stage is ran. You do 2 stages in the morning, repeated twice, which means that by give or take lunchtime, the marshal has finished his work for the day. The downside of that format, obviously, is the marshal could be there at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock. They have a very early start when you run that format. But whatever about the marshal, and don't get me wrong, that's important, but it's also from the residents' perspective. Now, I suppose they're lucky in Donegal that it's a rally-friendly county. You're locking in your resident all day on a 3-stage format, whereas on the 2x2, you're only locking in your resident for the half a day. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of for and against the format. I'm sure there was a reason why they had the format. Certainly, I would have personally missed the service in Milford. I would be a lover of that. But I think with these new FIA regulations, this was the downside of getting involved in the regulations to accommodate right and drive R5 cars. This is now just my thoughts on it. To get involved in that, you have to run FIA regulations. And to run FIA regulations, you need a centralised service area for 3 days. Mm-hmm. Again, that's just my thoughts at a glance on it. But there's
more. The comments are raining, Anthony.
Wow.
Louise Patton says every other Marshall's got a thanks, not one this year. Caroline McGuinness in touch actually publicly and said any other year was fab for Marshall's. Huge change this year. And Hannah Power, who does great work with Women in Motorsport Ireland on Instagram. When we were up in Knockalla on Saturday morning, we didn't see one Marshall on the hairpin itself. Crazy, and saw members of the public having to stand out on the live stage to slow oncoming cars after one competitor went off. And Tony O'Driscoll again back saying 3-stage format is cheaper on the club. Okay, thoughts on
3-stage format is cheap? He's right, yeah, because give or take €1, each stage location will leave a good window here, somewhere between 3.5 and 4.5 grand to run it, because you have an ambulance, a doctor, the services, the food for the marshals on that stage, you have to get paid, whatever, right? So 3.5 to 4.5 grand, depending on its length and the amount of people. So if you have 3 lots of it, well, it's 3 times 3, 4.5 or whatever, or 4 lots. So yes, the 3-stage format is cheaper to run. And, you know, it goes back to the TV coverage. And somebody commented there earlier, that they had an idea on how they could get all this to work. And, you know, and when I mention TV coverage, I mean it in association with the social media coverage, not instead of it, because you run both. But I cannot see the only way you can currently, the only income coming from rallying has come from 2 places: sponsors, where someone is sponsoring an item, or a competitor. They are the only 2 revenue streams currently, because we don't charge the spectators for God knows a myriad of reasons, I'm sure. So barry you start getting contributions. So that chap that had an idea, certainly to be interested, even if he only mentions it on your thing there, and we maybe discuss it the next time, and let's just tease it out and see, is it a runner? But at the moment, it's like, you know, it's like everything. 80% of everything will fall back on the competitor to pay for it. And that there was one gentleman said, yeah, why should we pay the €130 for TV coverage when, you know, that person may not be get a shot on the TV? So I would be suggesting it for, as I said, I mentioned Kevin O'Riordan, and I'm sure Kevin won't mind me mentioning it, that an event like, which is, you know, certainly a fantastic event and a big event as well of these standards, that, you know, literally hand out a form or do a poll at the event, or we could even do the poll in the program ourselves. Maybe, you know, he's going to probably be better because you're dealing direct with the customer. And to see, would you be willing to pay the money for not only TV coverage, anything that you want in the rally? You know, if you wanted, don't matter, anything, would you be willing to, you know, it's a big commitment. Yeah, don't know.
Yeah. A couple of more comments, and I do have to wrap it up shortly, even though it's going well and it's really interesting, I have to say. Anyone with a competitor's license should be made to marshal 2 or 3 rallies a year. Mike Cleary says, in today's world, why can't we have a subscription service like WRC.com for every rally in the country? Would generate a nice few bob. And East Coast Rallying say, I think the 3-stage format works well in regards to traffic. It keeps the congestion of traffic down, because in 2019 the stages was delayed by an hour on Carn Hill because of traffic with spectators and marshals trying to get from A to B. Pros and cons to everything. Yeah. Right, I do have a lightish enough thing to end this on, and do remind me of that, but I want to give the class winners first. So obviously going down through overall, Josh Moffat won from Sam in the end, and Marion Evans third. But to go down through the classes then, so Class 9, David Gordon and Darren McNamee. Class 10, Emma McLaughlin, Ashley Bolton. Class 11F, Kevin McLaughlin, Aidan Gallagher. 11R, Conal Hegarty, John Spillane. Class 12, Justin Smith, Gregory McQuillan. Class 13, Brian Brady, Gary McNamee. Class 14, Kevin Gallagher and Ryan Moore. I think, was he 7th overall, I think, as well, which was serious going. Yeah, 7th overall is listed here, actually. He had, just like a minute. I said just a minute. I mean, just literally on the minute to spare over James Stafford, but that's serious. Declan Gallagher third in that class. Our friend Gary Kiernan, who was on earlier, fourth, and Mark Alcorn fifth. Class 15, James McDowell and Charlotte McDowell. Class 20, going to Stuart Darcy and Liam McIntyre. Class 22, Rory McGarty and Martin McGarty. Class 24, Gary Jennings and Rory Kennedy. Class 25, Sam Moff, Keith Moriarty. And the RC2 class, Josh Moffat, Marion Evans, Alistair Fisher. RC4, Jason Dixon, Darren Mullen, Ryan Caldwell and Grace O'Brien second. Max McRae, I have to give that a shout out, I suppose, as well. There's 3 generations of McRae's knocking around Donegal, with Matt Kiernan sitting alongside Max there and third in class. Moving down to historics then, Class 17, Earl Carty and Jack Carty. Class 18, Michael McDade, Declan Casey. Class 19, Tommy O'Connell, Thomas Swedlock. The juniors then, we had Ryan McHugh on earlier. He took honours there. So that's what's going down through the class winners. Now, I want to, I'll go back to the comments first just to have a little look. What I really want to do is finish on a lightish enough one.
I think just as you're looking through the comments, I think a compliment should be paid to the McRae family, because the amount of photographs I saw with different generations, you had different age groups wanting to be with Jimmy McRae for a photograph, or Alistair McRae, and to be fair, they were fantastic. They gave their time. There is more pictures of them up on social media where people would have walked up and asked them, and they seemed to give their time freely to everybody, which was lovely to see. I just thought it was a nice gesture. They seem to be very, very friendly people.
Mm-hmm. Carly McGuinness back again. Some of the reserve competitors were on my Friday stage. That was in response to, I think, was it Richie Long? I said it there earlier. Great McCarthy, there is now a Marshals Commission within MI, and might be a good place to air Caroline's views from this weekend if they were sent on there. Fair play to Caroline, to all those who marshalled and ran stages the weekend. And Christy Butler says, all into the woods, I reckon. Christy's a big forestry man, and he carried our stickers on a couple of events there. So fair play to him. Alan Nesbitt, I want to give him a shout out, and Eleni Hay there as well, because they carried our stickers over the weekend. Anyone else that did it,
I'd carried them for you. I carried them for you, but you didn't give them to me. So they
were sent down in that pack. But
all right,
you obviously misplaced them somewhere. There's a few more knocking around there. There's actually a clatter more if any want them, and there's a few t-shirts and jackets as well. Okay. So I wanted to end on this. So I saw Flying Fin Motorsport sharing this earlier. I think it was on Stephen Gallagher's TikTok.
And short to left. Oh my God. You're all right.
The famous shit.
The famous. 5 left. 4 right over crest. And 4 left. 130 to a fast 4 left 40. 6 left over crest past the house.
Stephen Gallagher and Amy Burke.
Was that this year?
Yeah.
You're joking me.
The famous shed.
God. The famous shed.
Is the surname always gets pronounced wrong. Is it
McClatchy? Is it
McClatchy? McClaffery? I've heard all sorts of variations of it.
Oh, but brilliant!
Yeah,
and the chap doesn't live there, because we were up there doing a safety check many years ago, and I think the gentleman who lived there, who was, you'd have seen him back in the older videos. He's living across the road at the other side of the bridge now. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So Paul Harris was a previous visitor, I think, among many other people.
Right.
The doors are long gone off, I think, anyway. But even if there was doors, leaving them open would be the best thing, because they're not going to stay on the hinges too long. It was mad actually when I passed that place 5 years ago for the first time. To stand and look at these places it is kind of surreal, and I did feel like that when I went up there for the first time. It's an experience that I never forgot. And even last year, revisiting when I was on holidays, going up by Port Salin Beach, and a couple of hairpins on Knockalla, and looking down. I actually have a video on my phone somewhere. While there's no cars actually coming up the road and there's no rally, you're seeing the Ascona, you're seeing the Sierras, you're seeing the M3s, you're seeing the Legacies, the Impresas coming up. That's what it evokes in your mind when you're standing there looking down, even with no rally. It is really special.
One of these days, the men with the white coats are going to come knocking on your door if you're seeing them things. I really start to worry about you.
Hey, that's in comparison.
Yeah, but to be fair, I appreciate where you're coming from. Yes, you do. You can visualize what you saw. But again, go back to something we said earlier. Where did you see it? You saw it on television.
Yeah.
So, they're announced yourself. You're casting back memories of what you saw on television. So it goes back to the argument, or not so much the argument, the discussion with Gary earlier. It goes back to the TV coverage. Our memories come from TV coverage. And as good and all as this whole social media factor is, and to be fair, your colleague in this business, Kevin Glendenning, did an excellent job in the PR department with the club.
Mm-hmm.
And it is brilliant of the moment, but it's the TV coverage you remember back on. And yeah, it's an interesting now that just struck you as a memory, but there were memories.
Yeah.
There were old TV memories.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure. Maybe it'll sort itself out in time, and someone will pay for it. But yeah.
Yeah, I actually met Kevin was up there last year as well, and he was very helpful in trying to find certain places. Because in fairness, Derek Cummins was the one bringing us around there in the first couple of years, and I suppose while we were talking about marshals, like I know Derek was a little bit down on himself on Sunday night as well because of various things that maybe happened over the weekend, and I know. Look, there's altercations there where it can happen, but especially in Glen Village where you have loads of people. I was there 3 years ago myself, and I swore never again. There was someone I think maybe had a couple of pints on board and wanted to go up a live stage. Just forget.
I think one of the issues with Glen Village historically, if you go back to the old days when the great and the famous Dougie Hughes did the live commentary. I think there was even a photograph of Dougie with a pair of ladies' underwear over his jeans.
There's a video of that. There's still a video on YouTube. Yeah.
And there was always a member of An Garda Síochána there, and we better give a shout out for Tommy Command's gang here. But there was always a member of Garda Síochána there, and I think that's very important to have in Glen Village. Obviously, with local hostelries open and. It just keeps a bit of, it takes a little bit of pressure, say, off the marshals that are there on the day. I think the commanding presence and the stature of a Garda is quite important. And on that, I think the cooperation and the assistance An Garda Síochána give at the rally is just mind-blowing. As a competitor, there is not a T-junction or roundabout that you can, now I suppose we shouldn't be doing this, but you could come in at it from any angle, from any side of the road, inside the car, outside the car, you have priority. They give you as much assistance to keep the traffic flowing. Whoever is in charge of the management plan to keep the rally moving is a genius, because it really, really does. It's fantastic the way they get it to operate. And obviously you can never plan for the volume of people you're going to get at these events, but the from a competitor's perspective, they're really, really there is guard at every junction. Coming back off Atlantic Drive, from the time you come off the stage, there was a man at the end, there was a guard at the next junction, there was a guard at the church where you turn right to head back. It was incredible. There was several Garda inside in Milford. Brilliant, absolutely excellent. Now, so a big shout out to them. So,
yep, we have to wrap her up, I'm afraid. With the last few comments before we get there, easier to get a picture of the McRae's than it would be of Esther. That came in from Big Mon. McClafferty Shed is the name of it, apparently.
McClafferty.
Yeah,
same as the pubs. So it's the same.
That's actually McCafferty. There's an L. There's an L in this. Yeah.
Okay.
We give them a shout as well. Declan's been good to me previously. There's a for sale sign on the property now. Apparently, it's gone to sale agreed. Another person has informed. And last but not least, Tourism Ireland should be approached to sponsor TV coverage. And just one final point on that. I had a flick back to the 99 Donegal rally, which was uploaded onto YouTube in the last few days. And if you just go back to the first 2 minutes of that and listen to what Plum Tyndall says and the pictures he shows, it's not too far off Shakespearean poetry, the way he words it and the pictures of it. It was like a tourism program mixed in with the rally and stuff. It was great. So maybe there's a little bit of logic in that. Anyway, listen, Anthony, we're going to have to leave it there. Really enjoyed this evening. We've got
it was a good show. It was a good show, to be fair. And we could have, there were so many other aspects we could have, channeled our energies into. But you could talk about Donegal for days and days and days, the pros and cons. So, but look, to be fair, I'm sure the people, in power in these organisations, I'm sure they're listening to, and I'm sure they'll take on board. And please God, all things will be that little bit better and a bit more fine-tuned next year. They're trying to improve on something that's already really, really good. So,
yeah. So that's the story. Anthony, thanks a million. We'll chat to you again soon. Just to mention that we are, of course, as you can see on the banner, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Irish Rally Pod. If you haven't subscribed on YouTube, please do. You can hit the subscribe or follow button on Spotify and Apple and all those places as well, where we get the audio to probably get up in the next half hour or so. Above all this evening, I suppose, we want to thank our guests, firstly, but to you, our listeners and viewers, and tonight we'll call you contributors, because everyone has got it. Well, not everyone has got in touch, but so many people have got in touch, and it's provided very good debate. And it's definitely something we look at going forward. When we have a podcast going again, by all means, send me a message. irishrallypodcast@gmail.com is the email. You can private message us anywhere on, as I said, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we'll do our best to highlight things. And we always do try to be balanced as well in how we're covering it. We say that the whole time. And anyone wants to reply on anything, absolutely no problem whatsoever. That's it from us. We're back. We're back with the forestry in a couple of weeks' time, I think. So until then, mind yourselves, be safe, and above all, take care.